Shalom Avracha, good morning, my dear friends of Huvai Verei. I want to start at the very outset, prefacing with a tremendous expression of a Tov to the wonderful and very special Sandy and Henry Sat, Rabbi and his Eishes Chayil, sponsoring today's Shir in memory of his dear grandfather Chanoch Tuvia Sat, Allah V'Shalom Chanoch Tuvia ben Yaakov Mordechai, Allah V'Shalom on his yard site. I want to thank as well the incredibly special and wonderful Ruchi and Rabbi Yossi Lazar, sponsoring today the Shir in memory of his dear father Erwin Lazar, Allah V'Shalom Yoshua Pinchas ben Yeshaya, Allah Shalom. His yard site is Vav Nisan. The Heilige Neshama should be zocheh to a tremendous and continuous aliyas and Neshama and Gan Eden Shamayla Mechaya Lechaya Le'elo Le'ela Anabi Eskol Tzedek Tchias Amesim and Vayter Met Hashem. So let's turn our attention. We're clearly in Pesach mode. Nicely. Now it's a Shloshim Yom Kodem HaChag, and we're thinking about Pesach, and of course we're thinking about the Godel Shel Pesach. So let's turn to one of the key parts of the Seder, at least from the children's perspective. Everybody knows Dayenu, everyone knows the song, the tune that sung the world over, and we have the Mailas Tovas Lamakam Aleinu with various aspects for which we thank the Bari Olam, the whole prat to prat, not only both in Kloli, a general, all-encompassing expression of a Tov, or in endless gratitude to the Almighty above, today but again we're mafaret piecemeal, one by one, and the different Mailas from Shas Yitzias Mitzrayim to taking us into Eretz Yisrael and building the base of Achira. So let's head to one particular section of the Dayenu, something that we touched upon in the past, that Ilu Nasalanu Asatov Loach Nisanu Atzol Dayenu. Had the Eibishter given us the Torah Kadosha, but he didn't bring us into Atzol Dayenu, would have sufficed. Everything would have been sufficient. And of course, we have to ask the question, what do you mean? The Ramban writes in Achramos and Perkid Ches, other Rishonim talk about this idea as well, that the Ikar Makom, Siyas and Kiyam Mitzvahs is in Eretz Yisrael, the primary place for the performance of the mitzvahs, as clearly Eretz Yisrael. So very good, you have the Torah Kadosh, but you don't have the mitzvahs Bishlei Musan, you don't even have practically all the mitzvahs without a base of Achira, without the mitzvahs Hatuliyas Baretz. You have to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara in Sota says, was Nesave, he was Sota Yadal and an Aleph to get into Eretz Yisrael in order to be Makai the mitzvahs, the end of the first part in Sota. So in the end of the day, what's a Torah without Eretz Yisrael? So for that, we answered as follows. An answer that appears in Ramosha Wolfson's Haggadah Shel Pesach Chamunis Yitecha, Ratzvi Hirsch Ferber's Siach Tzvi, Gavaldige Sefer as well, that Siach Tzvi published back in Tavshim and Gimel. Siach Tzvi is on Tefillah, Karamat Tzvi, Ratzvi Hirsch Ferber, on the Haggadah Shel Pesach. They both answer based on the idea in Brachas Tav Chesem and Aleph. It's a Gro, it's a Marsha, it's a Tzaddik HaKohen, it's Tzidkas HaTzadik, and other places as well, and Kometz HaMincha. It's also the Ramami Pano and the Rugged Shover Nizaris and Maseches Brachos and the Kleyok and the Pasuk that Rabbi Yochanan was told there were old people in Bavel. How can there be old people in Bavel? The Man Yibru Yimechem Yimenech Ma'al Adama Adama in Chutz La'aretz Lo. You can only merit longevity in Eretz Yisrael. So how can it be that there are old people in Chutz La'aretz? The Gemara says that Rakami Mechash Le Bekanishta, because they come early and they stay late in the Beis Knesses. Explains the Gra, the Marsha, and all the others. Based on the Gemara Megillah Chavtes and Aleph from Elazar ben Akapar says that Asidin Sheyikbu Bata Knesiyas Batim Rosh Hashanah Sheyikbu Eretz Yisrael. And the future when Mashiach comes miraculously, all the Bata Knesiyas and Batim Roshos are going to travel to Eretz Yisrael, and there they're going to find their place. Mamela already right now, if you're Koveya your Mokum, you establish your Iker Kviyas Mokum, your primary place is in the base Knesses, is in the base Marish, then you're already living in Chutz La'aretz in a Me'ain and a Bechina of Eretz, because it's guaranteed in the future to go to Eretz Yisrael. Already right now, it's earned a quasi status of a Bechina of Eretz Yisrael. Mela writes the Munas Yitecha Haggadah Shel Pesach, writes the Karamat Tzvi Haggadah Shel Pesach, based on the Gro, the Marsha, the Kleyaka, the Ramami Pano, Rav Tzadok HaKohen, and the others. It comes out that what? You're ready in a Bechina of Kedusha Eretz, so you could create your own miniature on a microcosmic level. You could create your own quasi Dalet Amos of Eretz Yisrael, even in Chutz La'aretz. Mela, you know, how do you do it? The Torah. If you make your kviyas the Torah, hence Ilo Nosalon Sator Lochnesol Dayena would have been enough. If you have the Torah, you could create a Bechina Me'ain of Eretz Yisrael even in Chutz La'aretz. So we understand that line. That's the Munas Yitecha. That's the Karamat Tzvi. I understand that line. A Torah without Eretz Yisrael can make sense. But now let's press rewind. Let's go to the preceding line, and this is a pliatzuma. Many Mefarshim asked the obvious kasha. Had the Eibishter brought us to Sinai and not given us the Torah, it would have been sufficient. And now, yes, many Perushim in the Godesh of Pesach talk about, as from twilight to dawn, and many other commentaries on the Godesh of Pesach bring, and it's already in Kanmayim, Ila Karvano, just for the schos of Vayichan Shom Yisrael Neged Har and Vayisra in Parshas Yisro, and Perik Yates Posik Beis, Vayichan Shom Yisrael Neged Har, Rashi cites the Mechilta. What's Vayichan and not Vayachanu? Why appearing in the singular conjugation to be Malamed and to be Madea the Klai was the famous Mechilta, quoted by the Heilige Rashi. We were just for that taste of Achdus, the Gewaldiga experience of Achdus of Klai Yisrael, and B'shas Maisa, even without the Torah would have been sufficient. Okay, Gewaldig, it's a nice Maila, and that's the Losh Kirvado. Hashem brought us together, just for that Maila of Klai Yisrael, experiencing and tasting the Geshmak Achdus of Klai Yisrael being B'yachad. Just for that it would have been sufficient. Okay, very nice and beautiful shot. And then, of course, you have the Al Shach HaKodesh and others. What's the Maila of Rasina without the Torah? Pasku Zuamosan Chazal tell us, and we got to the Darga, the Madriga, the lofty level of Adam Rishon Kon Machay, and the Zuma, the Tuma, the spiritual defilement and impurity and imperfections that accompany the Chet of Adam and Chava that became part of our DNA. Pasku Zuamosan, it's Kilu, it's now exited from us. It's the part of we've been purged from that Zuma, from that Tuma. Ayadei, being in proximity to the Shechina, that Sinai experience did what? Was a purging process all the while, getting all the Zoom and the Tumah, and that's the Al Shechano, the Mefarshim. So that's also Maila, even without the Torah, we got rid of the Tumah. And then you have the Ritva and other Rishonim that talk about, just this scarvis to the Shechina, just God bringing us close to Him. Even without the Torah would have been enough. Okay, so we have many different Perushim. There, a lot of ink has been spilled, the Doridoros, how to explain the Maila of Kavala V'Nasina without the Torah. So we understand that there's a Gavaldiga Maila. Whichever Shita, whichever opinion you want to express, the proximity to the Shechina, the Pascha Zoamos, and they're bringing us close, many different pirushim. But you still have to ask the obvious kasha. What's Klai Yisrael without the Torah? Azor and Achribos Hayagimel Manal of Kutshabrucha V'Yasov Chadu. And without the Torah, we're nothing. Abisters, what is stuck of Araisa Baralma state in the Medrash in the beginning of Bereshis Rabbah and the Zohar Kodesh. The Abister and Torah created of the whole world, Bereshis, for sure Torah, Shenik Gracious, sure Yisrael Shenik Gracious, but they're one and one the same. A world without the Torah is nothing. Then you have Kedushin Daflam and Amad Beis, Barasi Yitzhar, Barasi the Torah Tablet. Writes the Ramchal, Moshe Chaim Litzado, and there's Monumental Basil Shisharm of Chazal Megala revealing to us that Barasi Yitzhar, Barasi the Torah Tablet. That means that's the only tablet out there, the only antidote, if you will, the only spices to channel, to redirect all those pejorative, negative inclinations of the Yitzhara. How do you channel and direct it to the right to Makom? How you mashan it? The Torah. That's it. The only tablet that's out there is Torah Seinu HaKadosha. And at the end of the day, how do you shleimus in this world? It's B'shul Yisrael and B'shul Torah Shenikaracious. Without the Torah, what are we? The Tachlis Abriya, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, is only to do what? As Moshe was told by the momentous encounter, the burning bush, Atad the Noisiel, how is that? It's going to come down to what? To getting the Torah and being my avodim. The culmination of the entire Geula was only to get to what? Was to get to Matan Torah. So without the Torah, what are we? Yes, they're milas. No one's disputing their milas. There's a mile of Achdus, there's a mile of Zuma, of Pascha Zumas, and there's a mile of Iskarvis to the Shechina. Alle Gevaldige Sachen. Amarid the Gemailas. But in the end of the day, if the upshot is that we didn't get the Torah, we can have milas, and I understand why to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but what's the Tachlis Abriya? This line is the one that's the most striking. How is it shaykh without the Torah to talk about the Metzias of Klai Yisrael and ever getting to perfection? It's a kasha posed by many Mefarshim. So let me share with you two Gavaldig answers. One is from the Sefer Birchas Hashir by Rabbi Leibtzin, who wrote many, many works. Rabbi Leibtzin, his parish on Agad is called Birchas Hashir, Gevaldige Sefers. He writes in Birchas Hashir, addressing this question, Kvar Tamal Kulam. It's like the Tafel B'li Melach. It's how you, Ma Betzah, if you don't give us the Torah, what are we? What's the Metzias? So writes the Birchas Hashir. Let's go to the Gemara, the Anamakis, Chav Gimel with Beis. And the Gemara says, Dorish Rabbi Simlai, Torah Tzibel and Moshe, Hashem Moshe gave us Torah. Torah's gematria is 611. Yes, we have Tayig mitzvahs, and as I pointed out in the past, an original gematria, perhaps the Feiner is 90. How many mitzvahs do we have? 613. In accordance with whose opinion? Rabbi Sinai. In accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Sinai, the gematria of Rabbi Sinai, like Rabbi Sinai, is b'diuk exactly 613. He's the Baal, remember, to tell us there's 613 mitzvahs, but we got them from two separate places. The Heiner Torah Tzivulana Moshe, Torah gematria, Tov Vav Resh yields the equivalent to 611. 611 came from Moshe Rabbeinu to Klal Yisrael, but the first two, Anochi v'lo yilcha. Let's go to Makkos Chavdal and Amud Aleph. Anochi v'lo yilcha mipia gavura shamanim. We know. Yes, not Yaparcha Nishmasan. At the end of the day, we couldn't be sovo, we couldn't tolerate it. But in the end of the day, the Eibishter spoke to us. Nochi Hashem Lokecha, the first Dibur, followed by the first Losase, Lo Yilach Elohim Acheram Apanai. So those were said by Dibur Achanemra when they were heard from a Kodesh Baruch Hu directly. Nochi V'lo Yilcha Mipia Gavura, Shaman Ma'ayin, the Shem Yishmael Parshot, and why we refer to Hashem as Mipia Gavura over there, but we heard them from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Writes the Berachas Hashir. The Maharsha explains what's the pshat in the Gemara, that in the end of the day, Bacha Valka Gamidan Alachas V'chulei, and the end of the day, Maharsha explains the whole Hemshech HaSugya, that Bo David Gamidan Alachas. Yes, they're tying mitzvahs, but through the 11 that David Amel highlighted, you can get to the remaining 613. Bo Micha Gamidan Al-Sholosh, you can get to the 613 through Michas 3, Hatznei Alachas V'chulei, and Bacha Valka in the Treyasar, Chavalka based out Bacha Valka Gamidan Alachas V'tzadik B'Mnosa Yichya, through the Yesod, the fundamental concept of Emunah, you could then burgeon and sprout and chap all the other 612 mitzvahs. So Mamela writes the Berachas Hashir. Avada, we need the Tayig mitzvah satira. Avada, we need the Torah, but what? It's not the pshat either. It's la lonoso satira ayidei Moshe Rabbeinu. Even if we didn't get the 611, the Torah tzivulana Moshe, just by Hashem bringing us to Har Sinai and speaking to us Himself, since those two, that's the Yesod of Emunah. Through those two, I can get to the other 613. Through the Anochi Hashem Lekech, which is the Yesod of our Emunah, I can get to all the other mitzvahs satira ayidei those two. It's not the shot. We said, what's Klal Yisrael without the Torah, without the Tayig mitzvahs? Nothing. But what? And Hashem would have spoken to us about them. He still would have given us an even low nosos, and even if He didn't give us the Torah, ayidei Torah tzivulana Moshe. Moshe kills Yaakov, so we wouldn't have had the other 611 gematria Torah. Even if the Eibishter didn't give us 611, but right, so right, we still always would have had the Anochi v'lo yilcha that we would have heard directly from the Eibishter, and that Avada, that's Nichlal and Kavalim Nehar Sinai, to hear God speaking to us directly. And based on the Maharsha and the Sugya, the Anamakas Chavdalit, through those two, I'd be able to extract and extrapolate and deduce all the other 611 through the Yesod of Emunah, just like the Maharsha told me, Tzadik B'Mnosa Yichya, through that fundamental concept, the bedrock of our Yiddishkeit, living with Emunah, with a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Through the Emunah, I could get to all the other Tayig mitzvahs as well. That's the Berachas Hashir. Now let me share with you a Gemaldik Pshat from the Kerem Atzvi, published back in Tavshim Mem Gimel about 40 years ago. Let's see, here's Ferber Choshev with Tamachochem and Rav London. As he writes in the Kerem Atzvi Gemaldik, he says also, it can't be. And what's Klal Yisrael without the Torah? He says, you know what the Baal HaGad is telling us? Avada Klal Yisrael needs the Torah. And Avada Hashem would have given us the Torah. Har Sinai without the Torah is nothing to talk about. Avada we got the Torah. So what's the Hargosha? What's the unique emphasis of that line in Dayenu? It doesn't say either Kavanah V'Ner Sinai V'lo Noson HaTorah. It doesn't say that. It says V'lo Noson Lanu Es HaTorah. So the Kerem Atzvi wants to be Machadesh. Avada the Eibishter was always going to give us the Torah. Har Sinai, the Sinai experience without the Torah, there's nothing to talk about. Hello, what? It means that what Hashem gave us at Sinai was Nason Lanu Es HaTorah. We have the Yechaylas to Hainu what? What does the Gemara say about Mitzion and Tes Lo B'Shamayim He? Once the Eibishter took the Torah out of Shamayim and He gave it to us, we have the Yechaylas. Rosh Hashanah Chafayim and Aleph. Atem Afilu Meisinam, Atem Afilu Shogim, Atem Afilu Toeb. We're Kofei of the reality of the Torah. How do we define the Torah? Chochmei Chazal B'Chol Dor Dor. I have the ability to be mafarish the Torah, and even if it's not 100% 100% the yemes. Lo b'shamayim. The whole singing of Mitzina says you can have miracles attesting. That's what Eliezer is right. In the end of the day, we go with Chochmei Chazal, and that's why he says the Nusach HaTorah is Baruch no Seinat Torah. In every generation, Hashem is continuously giving a new Torah. Yubeinecha kechadoshim. But more than that, writes the Kerem HaTzvi Rishfurber, Hashem in every generation is giving the Torah Loshen Hove to the Chochmei Hador, Yiftach Medoro Keshmo Medoro to Darshan, how they understand the Torah, and that's the Emes Atam Afilu Mazidim Atam Afilu Toim, and that's what it means. Ilo no son lanu us the Torah. Even if Hashem just gave us the Torah and the mitzvahs without the ability for us to control it, even then we would think, we need the Torah. That's a given. That's axiomatic. Hashem always would have given us the Torah. But what did Hashem give us at Sinai? No, so lanu as a Torah. We have the Tfisas Yad, we have the Koch, and he says, I'll prove it to you. Let's go to the Gemara Brachas Daf Hey and Aleph. He says, the Gemara says, that ain't Tova la Torah Shenamar. Pasuk in Mishnah Kelek Atona Sati Lechem Toras Yadozo. Hashem gave us the greatest gift. And then Rab Zera continues in the Gemara Brachas 5a as follows: Am Rab Zera Vitim Rab Chanina Papa Borei. Come and see Shalom Kamidas or Kershuch Midas Vasudam. And why Midas Vasudam when it comes to mortal flesh and blood? Adam Mocher Chafetz Lechavera Mocher Atzim Lo Kasameach. If Reuven sells something to Shimon, so Reuven's a little sad. Why? Because the object departed his possession, but the buyer is happy of all. Why? Hashem gave it away. If Hashem never gave it away, then how could you still sue? What's the comparison to someone who sells something? When Reuven sells a car to Shimon, he doesn't own the car anymore. So if the Gemara is trying to contrast Hashem to giving away the Torah, that means Hashem gave it away. What does it mean Hashem gave it away? Because Lo b'shamayim, Hashem says, I'm giving you the Torah and I'm giving you the bilus over my Torah. I'm giving you the control. Let's go to Makis Chabeis Abeis Amarova Kamatimshi Sharichi to Kami Mikabi Sefer Torah. Look, Kami Kamara, how foolish people are. They stand up in the Sefer Torah. They don't stand up in the Talmud Chacham. Why? Because already said, Ksiv Torah, Bam Yakenu and Shavdim. It says you give 40 Makas. Also, the Rabbanan Batsa they Chad and Rabbanan say came Rabbanan Paskin 1 million as so for Sabayim. We only give the person 39. What do you see? The Torah said 40. Chachmei Chazal make a drosha. And they come out saying it's not 40, it's only 39. You see that we have the Biblus. That writes the Kerem HaTzvi, Ilu no so lanu es ha-Torah. Hashem gave us the Biblus of his Torah. Lo b'shamayim. Say, Ilu, kevaru l'vnei asin, and Hashem brought us close. And he would have given us the Torah. Avalo nasan lanu es ha-Torah. And he didn't give us the lanu. He didn't give us that ability to control it. And lo b'shamayim, we still would have thanked HaKadosh. You know what? Even with Hashem, even with Hashemayim, we wouldn't have that ability. Just having the Torah itself would have sufficed. Just having the Kirah Scarabus with the Torah that would have sufficed. Even if Hashem didn't give us the Yechailas, but now we're going to think Hashem for what? Ilu no solanu es Torah. Hashem gave us the Yechailas. But now Hashem gave us what? We're going to come a malas. We're going to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He didn't just give us the Torah and the actual mitzvahs, performance and mitzvahs, and Kol Hashem Talmud Masagos L'Chadish. It's all already given, but He gave us what? No solanu es Torah. He gave us the Yechailas to control it. Torah says Abam Yakenu. We say it only means 39. Torah says to do X, Y, and Z. We come along and we make a drosha. We have the control. We have the ability. And that's Givaldi Simchas HaTorah. So let's just close it over the Givaldi Yeshai Gesarye. All right, the Eilig Yeshai Gesarye, and I think it's a nice two-step perhaps to the Kerem HaTzvi. And the Gemara Yeshai Gesarye is bothered. The Gemara says in the end of Tainus, we have a Mishnah Chavav Beis Amashim Le'Allah HaYom Toliso Kechamisha Sarav. Okay, with the greatest Yom Tovs in the history of the world, Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur. The Gemara says at the end of Tainus, the bottom of Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Bishlama Yom Kippurim, it's Yom She'id, Yom Dis, by Slichim Achida, Yom She'nir Baluch Shnius, we got the Luchas Achritis. On Yom Kippur, I got 2 B'Av. What's the shot? 6 different opinions. Parallel Sigim of Basra, 6 different opinions. Nitnu Haruge Beito, the Kibura, they finished cutting down, say Maracha, or Hutu Shvatim to marry into one another. Sheva Ben Yamin was an Almutter to marry into one another. Many different Perushim. And what's this Simcha Tu B'Av? Ask Rabbi Ginsburg, the Shagasari, Gevur Sari says, I don't understand. He just told me Yom Kippur is the greatest Yom Tov, and you tell me Tu B'Av is right on par with Yom Kippur. It's even mentioned, by the way, in the Mishnah before Yom Kippur. And when it says Yom Kippur, I understand it. Say Yom, we got the Torah. What's great about Tu B'Av? So we have nice answers. Do any of these answers in and of themselves compare to a Yom Kippur that you put it on par with the Yom Kippur? Do any of them compare? The Gavaldiga, the Shvatim cannot marry into one another. Sheva Ben Yamin cannot come back. Is that comparable to getting the Luchos Shniyos, and even all 6 together. But these are 6 different opinions. How can anyone justify putting it on the same level as Yom Kippur? Explains the Shagisai, it's not the simcha of the actual facts that these separate Mandi Omrim state on the pages of our Gemara and Tainis Taflam and Beis and the Gemara Bava Basra. The simcha is the simcha that Chazal have the ability to dash and psukim and created their own yontif. And that's the simcha. It's the simcha satayra. It's a shagasada. You know what? That Hashem gave us the achaylas to dash psukim and to create a yontif. Hashem created Yom Kippur. Hashem gave us a Yom Kippur, and we have the ability of chamisha so tu ba'av yontif kilu derabanan. Day, our koch, our ability that the Eibusher ingrained in us to be machadish, chidushay Torah, and to darshim sukim, and to create our own yontiv. It's the simchas of Torah that's done to Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur Hashem gave us the Torah. To ba'av, we have the ability to darshin his Torah, and for chochmei chazal, and to be machadish and kilu yontiv derabanan, based on our koch to control the Torah, to darshin the Torah. Especially like the Karatzi, that's Gavaldi. That's what we're thinking the Eibusher for. That's a simcha. Just like Yishakena Mashiach Kigho Tovnu Dechem Yayin, Shtein Chazal the Tovnu what the Divrei Seifrim. Chaviva know even more than Yeno Shotayra, things that were machadish. Oh, Gavaldik, that's not so lanu as a Torah. Eibusher didn't just give us the Torah and the actual mitzvahs. Hashem gave us the ability to be kaveya, to establish truths in the Torah, to extrapolate, and even when it's against lo b'shamayim, hey, Eibusher says, I'm giving it, and that's why it's done it to mochar outside. Hashem said, I'm letting it leave my domain. I'm giving it over to you. Shteit the men Roshaba, Shmos Rabba, Lam Gimel Anaf Hashem Kavyoch even gave a piece of himself in the Torah. Hashem says, you're the kaveya, atam afilu I'm giving you a bailus over the Torah. Har Sinai, the Sinai experience, was so much more than just getting the Torah and the mitzvahs, and even more than the scarves to the Shechina and the Poskas U'Masan and the Gevaldige Aftus of Kisha Chabalei. It was about what? No, so lanu as a Torah, we have the achaylas to be machadish to be kaveya, the truth of the Torah, based on our chochmei chazal and yiftach b'doro kishmo b'doro. Hashem is no saying continuously behold over the Torah kadosha. Rabbi says, savor it, enjoy it, taste the sweetness. Let's be makabel the Torah. Let's thank Hakadosh Baruch over the Torah. We're setting into stage Pesach, leading into Shavuos. Let's start the process of Hashem bringing on the Gevaldige Torah, and thank you for the Tayig mitzvahs, and thank you for the ability to extrapolate, to deduce, to expand, and to create new Chiddushei Torah, new Yomim Tovim, the Rabbanans like a Tubav, Ayadei Nasalanu, the Koch that you gave us a Kodesh. We thank you, Mimamoke, Libeinu, have a Gevaldige Shabbos Kodesh, and a Lichtige Gevaldige Pesach, Aboleinu the Tov.